First of all, I would like to thank the organizer of this event for having me invited to be part of it. It's a really exciting list of people that have been gathered for this seminar, and I'm really grateful that I could be part of it. What I will be talking today is the ways in which we can transmediate into the digital aspect of the materiality of books. As I normally put it when I present, I come from a conservation background, so I was a book conservator for many years, and then I slowly trickled into the digital humanities. And what I've been focusing on is the ways in which we can use digital means to represent and help us study the books as objects. So, as I normally put it, I look at the books, everything in the books apart from the text. That's why the title says Beyond Content Features. Um, I will put this into the broader scopes of codicology or archaeology of the book, and we'll look into the ways in which this digital approach has been used, can be used, and hopefully will be used in the future to help us really get information about the objects. Not so much, I mean, text is important, but also everything that comes with it. It's very important, as we know, and see ways in which we can actually get the data into digital format or models and play with it so that we can get to the point where we can distinguish also the objects and everything that comes with it. When I think of conchology and archaeology of the book, I always refer to the article by Gruis from 1972 because it really does set from the methodological principles that I think really represent the ways in which I do research. So you start from an accurate description of the object, then you can put together this data into a synthesis to understand how things have changed over time, and then you can associate this data with the contextual and content information so that really you can have a better idea of how the whole history of the book came about. When we turn that into the digital, the principles are still valid. The one main difference for me is that we need to find ways in which we can transmediate, not just describe these objects into the digital. Then we can use digital means to do the synthesis of our data, and the synthesis is actually much more powerful than we could do before. And then we can associate this data with all the other information. What happens normally when we do digitize is that we take images of the recto and verso or the pages of our book, and we end up with these sequences of images of the pages of the book and views of the object. Now, with these images, as we know, we can do a lot for what concerns the content analysis of the objects. We can, digital paleography has come a long way. Machine vision for manuscript has come a long way, so we can do text recognition on paleographical text, natural language processing, layout analysis, which of course is very important also for the chronological aspect. We are getting to iconography, and it's really exciting where we are. But all of this still does not contain the data about the object, let's say, and this is why digital codicology, in the way in which I deal with it, it's really lagging a little behind digital paleography, for example. Now, it is really interesting that more and more we are seeing an interest on the objects also in standard digitization, and we are starting to see pictures taken of the book in its three-dimensionality, which might not give us a lot of information, but it is some information more that we get about the mechanics and how the whole book works in 3D. And I think that's a very good addition that we have seen of late. The very act of digitizing for the transmitter of the content, so the text and everything that's on the page, uh, deletes and conceals a lot of information that we have on the object per se. So if we were to instead look into the topography of the object through means like RTI, then we can really mm, couple and see details that are usually concealed within the standard digitization. And in fact, we see details even better than you will see them on the actual object by looking it around and turning it around so that it catches the right light. So this kind of digitization techniques are really exciting, and we have, Bill Anders has been doing a lot of work on this, and it's really exciting. Now, these are images from some of the books that I'm studying right now. So Carolingian style bindings from the northeast of France. And as I studied them, I take notes, I take pictures, but I found that uh, for some details, it was really important for me to find a way to take the book with me per se in its three-dimensionality. So what I did some very brief and dirty photogrammetry. I just took images of the book with my phone, nothing more than the phone, and the lighting in the reading room. And I used free software to create a 3D model that I can manipulate and check for details that are not easily capturable through other, normal photography. And the good thing is that photogrammetry comes with measurements. And even though I'm using the free software that doesn't allow you straight out of the box to measure things properly, you can actually do it to an accuracy that's more than enough for what I need. So that is also something that is really makes it much easier to work with the books in this manner. So you can actually measure off the book and actually easier to do that sometimes. Now, there is one aspect of the book in codex format which does not generally transmediate well into digital, and it's also fundamental to the understanding of the object, which is the gathering structure. So how the pages came together and were put into the groupings and sewn together so to create the text block and book block. Now, some projects allow you to navigate per quire, so you understand where you are within the gathering structures, but this is actually not the standard ways in which images are organized in digital representation of the books. So what we normally have is what I refer to as the floating pages problem. You have all these nice images in the sequence, but you don't know which page is physically attached to the other to create the gatherings. Usually, this kind of information is recorded within collation formulas. Uh, However, especially for manuscript studies, we have a little problem that there isn't a real standard. There are families of collation formulas that are used for different traditions and in different environments. Uh, but they're all very different. So all of the collection formulas that are on the screen are taken from the literature, and they all are valid according to one specific schema. Uh, but they're all very different, and also the information is so compact it is difficult to understand it sometimes, especially for very complex structures, and to visualize them in your mind. To the point that oftentimes we have found that a collation formula it's taken for granted, and even if that doesn't represent the object anymore, it's carried on as the collation formula of the manuscript. And for manuscripts, that is the tradition is that actually the collection formula should represent the object as it is now, not the ideal copy as it is for printed books. So many of you will know about the project that I've been working with in the company of Dot Porter. We started together for an idea that she threw to the GI this list 10 years ago. It was July 2013. And we've been working on it ever since in a way to really work with the gathering structures of books and how we can model that and represent it and how we can map information on it. We went through a series of different versions of the model, and we finally got to what we call the VSCOL 2.0 model, which is based on the leaf. So the building block of the model is not the quire anymore, as it is normally for collection formulas, but it is the leaf, which can be singleton or conjoined with another. And this allowed us to really be able to describe very, very complex structures, and the model hasn't broken yet. In this, it's been quite a few years now. I think 5 years that the model it's standing, and we can describe something very complex like this. So this is a manuscript from the Vatican Library, which I worked with when I was working there as a conservator. And the diagrams that you see on the screen are actually automatically generated. So I take this to mean that the model is able to capture this information to the point that then the algorithm it's able to take the information and transform it into this kind of very complex structure. And I will never know how to deal with this within a collection formula. And also, there is a lot of information here which is not normally recorded straight in the collection formula, like the ways in which the leaves are connected to each other, pasted or drummed, and the positioning of the sewing threads. So this is eventually it's actually a much more complex model than it is normally recorded within the collection formulas. And but this call is actually an even more complex system because on top of the core of the model, which is the way, as we seem to describe, the ways in which the pages are gathered and put into grouping and sewn and pasted and whatnot within the manuscripts and in the books. There is there are other parts within the model where you can map other kind of information and see where these other pieces of information which you want to record occur within the structure. One specific kind of information that we've been recording and implementing and now out of the box, out of the VSCOL visualizations and transformation is the information about the animal species and hair and flesh side within parchment manuscripts. So we did this in collaboration with Beast2Craft, an ERC project that focused on the ways in which we can extract information about the species of parchment, and so the animals that whose skin was then turned into parchment for us to write on. And so the information is mapped on the structure, and then the software captures that information and then transforms it into these what are now standard visualizations. And the colors are, we agreed that those are the colors that we always use for the same species. So that's a cool addition that we have added over the last few years. Another imaging technology that is very important for recording aspect of materiality is spectral imaging. Now, generally, spectral imaging for manuscript studies is applied for the recovery of the undertext of the palimpsest, but that's not the only thing we can do with the data coming from spectral imaging. In the same manner in which we can record the underwriting by looking at the ways in which the erased ink still reacts, so the trace of the erased ink still reacts to the lighting, we can characterize different materials on our page. This is because materials react differently to different wavelengths. For example, as we see here, ion gold ink will disappear completely, become invisible, transparent under infrared light, for example. So we can really get information out of the what materials we had there by looking at the ways in which they react to the spectrum. And there are different ways in which we can recover this information, but one that I find particularly useful for humanists is the spectral curves, which is these are just curves that describes the ways in which the materials reacts to each different wavelengths. And you can use these as signature of the different materials. Materials that might look the same on the naked eye, if they're different materials will have different spectral curves. So for example, in this Greek manuscript, you can see that certain inks were used for specific part of the manuscript, even if they look the same. They actually some parts are done with different inks, and you can really look into the layering also of the corrections by looking at the ways in which each different materials is represented within the data capture from spectral imaging. So really it allows you to really delve into the different things that you find on the page and differentiate within them. An extra technology that it's becoming nowadays is still very niche, but I hope that we can have more of that. Is CT scanning of books, and to these results now with micro CT scanning, it's amazing the things that you can see without opening the book or taking it apart. You can really look into the sewing structure, the gathering structure, and even recover text without opening the book. That's where the technology is aiming for the content, but it's actually also very exciting for the structure and all of the material analysis around it. So there is one thing that I always point out is that there is a difference between physicality and materiality. And this is a very important difference because it explains the reason why we need different ways to tackle this object. It's actually very complex. And each different aspect that we look at will probably need a different ways in which we can get this data and transmediate that into the digital. So physicality, we can define it as the infinite set of physical attributes that make up the reality of the object. So the object in itself, in its essence, it's made up of unlimited numbers of unlimited set of information that we could study, and that is why the object would still remain the sole container of all information. We can use the digital to enhance other way to look at it. We can use the digital to get to it remotely, distant reading of it, but I will never replace it. And I think this is very important to remember. On the other hand, materiality is really it's an emergent property. It depends on what we are studying, what is our point of view, what do we want to get out of the ways in which we look at the physical object. And so every time we look at its materiality, we extract some particular kind of information and look into that. The same happens when we try to digitize uh, the materiality of an object. We need a way in which we can extract one specific set of information. And as I said, that is why we end up with almost an infinite number of things that we can do on the object, each one focused on a specific set of information that we want to recover. Now, as we said, generally, digitization is understood as capturing information through cameras, and, for photography and imaging. But as we've seen for the case of the gathering structure, for example, although now CT scanning might help us to get more information about this also through imaging, but we're still not there yet. Some features, some aspect of the book uh, are what I refer to sometimes as untransferable, not meaning that they can't be transmediated, but they can't be transmediated through current standard digitization. So we need different means in which we can digitize this and bring them into the digital. And so in this way, if we consider that digitization can be also any ways in which we can get data and transmediate that into the digital, something like modeling, it's an important aspect of digitization as far as I'm concerned. So the gathering structure model in this call, it is a way of digitizing information about the book. And different aspects might need other models, other ways in which we can look at it, which we can't immediately grasp through machine vision and photography or imaging. This leads us back to the point that we made at the beginning, whereby codicology and archaeology, the book in the digital, uh, needs first of all to concentrate and find ways in which we can transmediate the information that we need to study the object in the first place. Once we've done that, then we can really get into uh, the other very exciting things that we could do with the data. And we've seen the amazing things that have been done in digital paleography, mostly because the data was there to be played with through machine vision. As we said, not everything can be captured in this way for codicological and archaeology of the book studies, but there are ways in which we can do that. And once the data is there, then sky's the limit, really. And so really excited to see where we can go from here in the next few years. So for distance mediation, as we said, we need different ways in which we can tackle the problem of getting that information, digitize it. And over the years, I've been looking at different things, in which we discussed a couple of examples in these presentations. But the important thing is that we need full set or different data set, different ways in which we can get that, and all of this eventually needs to actually be gathered back into a digital representation, which we can use to really study the object in its entirety through different aspects. And this is where things are not there yet. We have different data sets, but it's not really easy to integrate all of that into what has been referred to as a digital cultural object. And once we start to really integrate all this data also about the materiality, this is where things I think can be really exciting, and we can really get going also with digital studies of the archaeology of the book. But we need to remember that, you know, while on one hand, uh, digital counterparts can help us really understand the object in ways which was not easy or possible even with the original object. The digital culture object will never replace the original because of the physicality being an infinite set of information. So we will always find things that we need to go back to the original object and then find ways to digitize that and then add that to our digital cultural object so we can get a better remediation of the object, but it will still be limited by this very means of being a digital uh, counterpart. However, if we do get to, to get real digital cultural objects, um, then we start really be able to play with this data. And remember the Gruis article, you have the data set and you transmediate that, and then you can start analyzing. And I think this is where the digital can really get us going through means that we haven't seen yet for archaeology of the book, where we can really start to distant read different data sets about different books in different collections and really start playing and find information that might not have been discovered yet. And so I'm really looking forward to this and see where we can get to in the near future. And with this, I thank you.